What is going on, everyone? Peter back again for another daily video. Today I want to talk about protein, what kind of protein you should take, how often, all that stuff, okay? So there's a lot of misconception about protein, so I'm going to clear that up for you right about now. So the optimum spacing you should be consuming your protein in is about 3 to 5 times per day. The reason you want to space it out is because muscle protein synthesis, what stimulates muscle growth, after a sufficient amount of protein, it's spiked for around 3 to 5 hours. Okay, so once it's spiked and maximized, you can't push it any further, so to speak. So once it's maximized, once you've taken in a sufficient amount of protein, it can be extended up to 5 hours. So if you want to get the most bang for your buck, if you want to optimize your protein intake throughout the day, you want to space it out, over 3 to 5 hours intervals at least, to keep your muscle protein synthesis levels high throughout the day. Okay, and now moving on to how to spike them. Okay, so to maximize muscle protein synthesis, you need to be taking in around 3 to 4 to 5 grams of leucine. Now this is an amino acid. It's one of the big ballers in terms of protein synthesis. So you also need to be getting in a sufficient amount of essential amino acids. But leucine's the big one, okay? And every protein source is different, of course, but generally you want to be getting in around 30 grams, if not more, of protein per serving. So this would look like maybe a fistful of lean, good quality meat, for example. Okay, so if you're more of a plant guy, if you're vegan, or you get your protein from beans and soya or whatever like that, you're gonna have to eat slightly more protein, but because the bioavailability, there's less leucine content and essential amino acids. So if you are more of a plant person, you need to be eating more protein to ensure you maximize your muscle protein synthesis and get all that leucine on board to stimulate those gains. Okay, so what kind of protein you should eat? So you should eat all the protein, as much as you can, relatively, but animal sources are better quality proteins. Not to say that plant proteins don't have their place, not at all. They're good for you if you're consuming the right ones. But whey protein, which is what most protein powders come in, is really the best quality protein you can get for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. Okay, then you've got eggs and chicken and beef. So those are kind of the best ones. But whey protein is really the best quality protein you can really consume. So there is a reason why protein nutrition companies do market it, because it actually is quite good. But there obviously is a very varying degree of the quality of the protein powder and the leucine content in your protein powders. But there's no need to go out and spend a fortune on protein powders if they're extravagant, if they say they are special beef isolate whey or something like that, because really the stuff that most protein powders contain, is the best protein you can get. So that's important to keep in mind. And this is a common misconception as well, there isn't a certain threshold of protein that you can consume after a meal. So most people would say, oh, it's 30 grams. That's a common misconception, but it's really not true. Every gram of protein you eat, you absorb. But as we said before, you want it spaced out throughout the day, because there's a certain threshold of protein and leucine amino acids that once you consume and maximize muscle protein synthesis, you can't push it any further. So the protein that you consume beyond that level, it will go to other functions such as energy and storage as glycogen or fat. So for that reason, you want to space out your protein throughout the day. You don't want to, I know people do have one meal a day or 2 meals a day. It's still going to work, you know, you're still going to get lean and get big or whatever, but I'm just talking about the ideal dietary habits. But I know there are people who are huge and jacked who don't do this, but this is just what the scientists say, okay? It doesn't mean that you can't get results following other practices. So you want to space it out throughout the day, and there's not a certain amount of grams you need to eat every day. If someone says, you know, you have to eat 400 grams of protein a day to make gains, it's simply not true. Everyone's different. It depends on your age, weight, gender, okay? But generally, a blanket statement for every single individual who goes to the gym would be 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's a very general guidance. Some people will need more than that if you're in a calorie deficit and you're trying to lose fat. Some people may be able to get by a little bit less, because protein is very satiating and it does have a high thermic effect. So if you are a hard gainer and you're trying to bulk up and you're kind of struggling, eating tons of protein may not be your best bet, because it's quite filling and it does consume quite a lot of energy, relatively speaking, to digest. So in that sense, if you're trying to bulk up and you're struggling to gain weight, prioritizing protein may not be your best bet. So we've gone through the kinds of protein you can eat, ways the best, but get anything you can, okay? You want to space it out, 3 to 5 portions of protein serving a day, okay, to maximize muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. Okay, then you want to eat enough protein that's will maximize your muscle gain. So this is all different for everyone, but 1 gram per pound of body weight is a good starting point, I think. You could go a bit lower, a bit higher, depending on the circumstances. And yeah, so whey protein's good to go. So those are just some tips for today, guys. And going back to the absorption bit, so you can absorb all the protein you eat, but whether it will all be sufficiently put towards muscle protein synthesis is a different story. You're best to try and space out your consumption of protein throughout the day. But obviously, if you can only get in 1 meal a day and you're busy the rest of the day, then do that. It's whatever's practical in your own life is the best, really. So don't have to get caught up too much in the theory. Those are just some quick guidelines to go by. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.